Yes, it's been got it. Setting up the meeting. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'd love to take this opportunity to introduce to you all Caryn White of Caryn White Coaching. Over to you, Caryn.
Thanks, dear. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm going to be sharing something which I think a lot of us struggle with. This is a triple S method on how you can beat procrastination. So this is about stopping the procrastination. There's other ways you can overcome it, but I really want to focus today on stopping that procrastination from happening. So firstly, I'd love to take you back in time. Imagine this. The year is 2003. I'm living in New Zealand. I'm working full time at the time, and I'm studying towards the Bachelor in Business Studies and Accounting part-time. My then fiance and I are set to move to Sydney, Australia for his work opportunity. And as such, I confirm with the institution in New Zealand that I need just one more elective and I'll graduate and complete my BBS, which I can do in Australia. So in my mind, I'm like, this is easy. I've got this. I've got no kids at the time. We're not yet married. It's only on my own back that I need to get this done. So I had a plan. I would relocate, research which institutes would go to, obviously get married, and then enroll for that next semester, study, and then as a result, I would graduate in March 2005. However, what happened? Fast forward 17 plus years, 2021 is when I actually did graduate. This is actually what did happen. I did get married. I did all those things initially, but then study came in. There was some career changes. There was kids. There was countries moving, and I graduated in September 2021. Life happened, right? Because that's what happens. And you may be thinking, why didn't you just get it done? How could you let it go on for so long? It literally was just one paper. And what was stopping me? I would rather ask the questions, what's the better questions to ask me is, why do I find it easier to action some things and not others? And how can I learn from this situation? Because as you may have seen, it wasn't that I was just sitting idly by and not doing anything. I was actioning. I was actually started studying towards my CPA. I was having kids. I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was doing all these things. So it wasn't like I was not doing anything. Just for some reason, I was avoiding this particular thing. So the focus of today is to firstly define these key terms I talk about, procrastination and action, because I think there's a lot of definitions going out there, and I just want to make sure that we're aligned with what we're talking about today. And then I'm going to take you through this triple S method on how you can beat procrastination and shift your inaction to action. So the definition of terms is, it's the act of leaving you things that you should be doing until later. Often because you do not want to do for several reasons, which I will share later about my personal situation. And action is obviously doing something for a particular purpose. The key is that you're doing something versus not doing something. And that something is actually aligned with where you want to be, not just dilly-dallying around as such. So the first step in the triple S method is about spotting. So this is knowing that you're actually procrastinating. You may think this is actually easy, but I'm telling you, it took me 7 years to even realize that I was actually procrastinating on this particular task. So typically for me, as one of my signs, is that when I get given something, I'll say, oh yeah, I'll do it later. Then the outcome of that is my calendar fills up because I haven't actually put it in my calendar. I haven't scheduled it. And as such, I don't actually have the time to do it, which becomes really frustrating. And that became a pattern of mine, which I'm now aware of, so I can actually put some things in place to stop. So think about yourself. What are your signs of procrastinating? Do you hit the snooze button all the time, but just before you get up? That is actually a sign of procrastinating because you're procrastinating on something. Are you like this woman? Do you find something else to do rather than actually doing what you're supposed to be doing at that point in time and just to distract yourself? I used to thrive on deadlines. So I would leave everything to the last minute, just thinking I've got lots and lots of time, and then of course rush and get absolutely stressed over it. Maybe you're on social media, but not for your business purposes, and you get lost and go down that little rabbit hole and then just, don't come out 2 hours later. Maybe you come out with lots of excuses, like it's too early, it's too late, I'll do it tomorrow, I'm too tired. Those are signs of procrastination. Or maybe you've got things on your to-do list and you keep putting another thing on top, that never doing that one or two things that are on the bottom all the time. So I want to encourage you today. This QR will just go to a link where you can download a workbook. And I would love for step one on one of the pages in the workbook, you can identify your top 5 signs. I give you ideas of what those are, like what we've just discussed, but I really encourage you. I've set it 10 minutes because I know sometimes if you don't set a timer, you end up staying there forever potentially, but I find a timer is really helpful, just to set a timer. And as a first step, just to figure out what are your signs, like typically for yourself, what are your 5 signs that you actually for procrastination. So step 2 is about stopping the procrastination. Like, yeah, I know it's not as easy said than done, but the focus here is to understand what is triggering and what are your root causes behind your procrastination. So for example, I like to categorize this into 7. So 1, it's boring. I mean, that is one that I think a lot of my life I've been suffering. If it's boring, I just don't want to even do it. It could be really frustrating. Maybe it's really difficult. It could be ambiguous. You just don't know what you're supposed to be doing, or really unstructured. You might crave structure, or it's not intrinsically rewarding. There's nothing in there. You don't feel joy or happiness when you do it, or it lacks personal meaning. So think of those 7 things. I can guarantee any task that you're avoiding or procrastinating on will have at least one of these triggers or root causes for the reason why. So again, I encourage you, download the workbook and then go through that table. You can do it online, or you can write it down yourself and print it out and reflect on, what are my triggers? What are my root causes? And the last step is to swap. So after identifying these triggers and these root causes, if you swap out that trigger or root cause, then you eliminate it. And that means that you can action. The issue tends to be, as I will share in a little bit, is that you may have several different triggers in there. So you actually have to eliminate several of them to actually get the momentum going. But for example, if your task is boring, make it fun, make it satisfying, do something different. So for me, every Thursday, I go down to the beach here and I do some of the most boringest tasks ever, which is usually my admin. But I do it at the beach, and so it's a different location. It feels fun, right? I grab like a cup of tea and I put it next to me and I just put the music on and I make it fun. If it's frustrating, find a way to make it satisfying. Reward yourself. If you get this much done, then maybe you can catch up with a friend, or you can do this, or you can go outside, do something fun from it, but make it satisfying initially. If it's really difficult, I feel like you all know this, start with the easiest part and build the momentum from there. Find something that's super easy. It might just be literally going, I have to make this phone call, write this email. It might be, make it easy. If it's ambiguous, create that clarity. You might need to read a book. You might need to actually ring somebody that will talk to somebody that actually knows a little bit more than you. If it's unstructured, you can structure your time. Maybe turn it into certain days, you do certain things, parts of it. It doesn't have to be every day, but pick a structure that could work to push through that sort of idea that you can't do this thing. If it's not intrinsically rewarding, then uncover what can make it happier, what can make you happy, feel more satisfied, bring more joy, maybe a sense of pride, something internally for yourself. And if it's lacking personal meaning, then align it with what your goals are. Is it to do a promotion? Is it to earn more money? Is it to get that bonus? Whatever it might be, but align it to your goals, and then it actually comes with some sort of personal meaning. So again, I would encourage you to, on step 3, is download that, go through it, thinking about your root triggers and your causes. And next to those, think, how could I eliminate some of these? So just to recap, you have the spot, the stop, and then the swap. If you take those 3 together and take the time to go through it, you will be able to push yourself to action. But with that, you'll actually know why you're being held back and have that awareness around it. So if I think about my personal story, just to share here, in 2010, so that's 7 years after I actually got this is what you need to do, 1 elective, I decided I wanted to do my CPA because everyone around me was doing that. It was an accountant thing to do. I realized at the time I got told I could never actually fully qualify until I had a degree. That was my first point of realizing, what have I been doing for 7 years? Yes, I'd had kids. Yes, I got married and done all these things, but why hadn't I done it? So that was my first sign. However, I didn't do anything because I had my daughter then, and then I was busy again. But next stage was, it wasn't until 2020, 10 years later, that I actually was at a webinar and I realized that I had a mix of all these root triggers, because at the time when I spotted I was procrastinating, I didn't actually know why. I didn't know why I couldn't do these things. People would say, just do it. And I just couldn't get myself. I was afraid of the outcomes, basically. There was a lot in there. So it wasn't until I discovered these 7 sort of root triggers and actually looked at it and realized, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. So then the last stage for me was to swap those out. So I had several of them there. So for example, I thought the task was really difficult. I didn't know where to start. So I sought clarity. I started with the real easy, which was contact the institution and find out what's next. What can I do? Describe my situation. It was also unclear to me. It was ambiguous what I needed to do. So again, I had to find some clarity around that. And I had to find that reason, what was intrinsically rewarding for me and what was the personal reason for doing this. And that was for me to work in most of these Asian countries, I need to have a degree. So to do that, and also I would lose all the work that I'd done on my CPA. So there was a lot there that I had to unpack, but I had to really, I guess, jump into what was my why. Why did I want to do this? So for yourself, recap on these steps, go into download that workbook, list your top signs, work out which of these 7 triggers are relevant to you and resonate with you. And then referring to that, what could you do? What actions could you take to eliminate those triggers? And then, of course, once you have all these 3 steps, just to action. And I just want to remind you now, why quit procrastinating? It is known to increase stress levels. It does burden you with regrets and guilt. There is a fear of failure and success within there, and you tend to blow off opportunities. Statistics show that 15 to 20% of adults regularly procrastinate, and of 25% of them say that it's a defining characteristic of who they are. So where procrastination has been linked to like underperformance, financial difficulties, and negative self-esteem, there's really good reasons for you to take control of that procrastination and work on ways you can push through it. So as I said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And I just want to leave you, if again, here's the little scan, you can download the workbook. I'd encourage you to do it, complete the 3 action steps. And then if you need one-to-one support and how you could work with me or even jump in, is you can either scan the code, there's a link there just to book a 30-minute call with me, or I have these 3 amazing programs in place where you do a deep dive 90-minute session, or there's a Go for Goal 4 sessions to work focusing on goal, or my 12-week journey to find your true calling. But yeah, that's all of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Caryn. That was wonderful.